Hello, ladies and gents, and today we're going to talk about making sure you're choosing races that you actually want to do, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Wendover DNF. So, usually towards the back end of the year, I'll always have an idea of what I'm going to do in the next year, i.e. with racing, etc. I usually have my A races already booked and lined up just because I like to be organised like that, but also I like to sort of know what sort of training I'll be doing. This year, I had the summer South Spine Challenger thingy, about 110 miles. That was my big A race. Had a really good event before that as well. Did the Pennine Barrier 50 mile, which is roughly, it's not roughly, it's around the Yorkshire Peaks, that sort of area. Really good race, by the way. That's done by GB Ultras. Very good race. And then I had, the South Spine. And once I was sort of near that race, I was already thinking about, right, what am I going to do next year? What sort of things do I want to do? And actually a goal of mine is always just to become a little bit of a better runner, like become a little bit quicker. Because when I first got into running in 2022, I went straight into trail. So I sort of missed a lot of the foundations that are built on road, good leg turnover, efficiency, becoming quite a good complete runner. This is why you actually see people that are good road runners, when they come onto trail, a lot of them succeed really well because they've built the foundation there. They've got the quickness in the legs, and then they just bring that over to the trail. So I sort of skipped that, which was very suboptimal really, but it's okay. And this year has been probably my best running year. Times are down, moving better, more experienced. And actually it feels like I've had a proper training year, which is good, doing training run races, bigger days out, more volume across the board. So even though I've been running since 2022, I feel like I'm actually coming into my own with, like, obviously this is all relative, coming into my own running this year. So finished the Spine, really happy with that. Got a good result, sort of got what I wanted. Really enjoyed the race as well. That was key. I think when in choosing races as well, which is quite important, you've got to have that fire in your belly. If you don't, you probably won't finish that race, or you might not even start that race. And we'll talk about that a little bit later with Wendover. So finished the Spine, and I knew next year, right, I'm going to do South Downs Way 50 Centurion event. Already booked. That's, I'm going to build a little bit of speed in the winter and try and do a relatively good time on that course, because it can be quite a quick course. But I had a word with my coach, and he's like, I reckon you could actually do another event towards the back end of this year. And by the way, this is no slight on him, of course not. I'm an adult. I should have said no, actually. I just want to do what I want to do, which is quite important. And it's definitely a learning curve for me. If I don't have the buzz for something, let's say, I will be saying no a lot more in the future. But we found an event, Wendover Woods 50, which is a really interesting race anyway for me, because I've never done like the loop or backyard sort of style, which was a really interesting race. Usually I'm doing point to points or big loops, or sort of out and back, should we say. And if I'm honest, I probably didn't even want to go and do that race. Even when I booked it, I didn't have the sort of oomph for it. I just thought, 50 miler, that'd be easy, go crack it out. Sort of a bit blasé with it, which is the wrong thing to do, because when we're doing a big race like that, you still got to give it credit, and you still got to respect the race. It's 50 miles. You still got to want to do it, which is quite important. So we go to the race. I'm not even feeling it on the day, if I'm pretty honest. Some of my mates who ran with it, and I was chatting with them, they probably could get that vibe as well. If I'm honest, I just wasn't feeling it. I had a relatively good training block, but I just wasn't really feeling the race. And as soon as I got the gut issues, which I sometimes get in races, it was easy for me to pull out. The car's there. You're doing 5-10 mile loops, and it's, I stayed out for an extra loop, because I was like, right, let's just see if I can carry on. and stayed out for an extra loop, and I was like, nah, that's it, fuck it. And it's interesting because I've def marched 20 miles loads of times. I know I can finish that race, but it's fascinating actually, the mindset and the psyche of your car just being there and you can actually just go. Also, I wanted to get back for the boxing, I'm not gonna lie, and I really fancied, there's a McDonald's around the corner from Wendover Woods, so I really fancied that. And yeah, and so the purpose of this video is like making sure that when you're booking these events, these big races that you're looking to push yourself on, make sure you really want them, because you don't want to be wasting money and DNFing on these sorts of events. You've got to have the fire in the belly to get up for that event and give it some, because 50k, remember this is relative to every person because everyone's got on a different journey with their running, but half marathon, 50k, 50 mile, 100 mile, right, 100k, they're all big efforts, right? And you really have to really want to do these races, otherwise you're just not going to finish. You can sort of end up as I felt. But what's been interesting over the last 2 weeks now, I've got a bit of hindsight and a bit more time to reflect. It was the right decision, and I called that pretty early in the race. I was like, I'll do one more loop. If I can't get anything down, I'll stop the race. And, I'm quite content with that decision. It's meant that I can, from a positive standpoint, because a lot of people would be very, very upset with a DNF and stuff like that. But for me, it's just got me training back quicker. And it's made me realise of making sure that when I book an event, before I send that company the money, I need to really make sure it's a race I really want to do. Obviously, I'm only talking about A races. Your B and C races, anyway, they're just part of your training block. But especially the A races, you need to be like, right, I actually really want to do this race. And every big event I've done and sort of suffered through are events that I've always really wanted to do. Dragon's Back race, Lakeland 50, something I did in Brecon Beacons, some of the Maverick races, the Pennine Barrier, the Spine. All those races, what really got me to the end was not just the training block, but actually really wanting to do well at those events. And if you don't have that sort of fire in your belly before an event, you're just going to make yourself have a much harder and more awful time. And this is the problem sometimes that we see in the running industry, is everyone's always trying to leapfrog their races. They do a trail marathon, the next race they do a 50k, then they think they can go and do a 50 miler. And in some cases they can, of course, but everyone's always in a rush to race and just get a bigger distance. And this is how we end up, people actually, they fall out of love with the sport. They can't remain consistent. And yeah, and that's not what we want. Obviously, with the running community, we want to keep people enjoying the sport and obviously remaining consistent with their training, because obviously if we have good training, that usually means you're going to have a good race or a better performed race. Obviously, we can ruin it on the day, but still. So yeah, that's what I was just going to come on. Just explain my Wendover DNF. Didn't really want it. Had an excuse. Took it. But also making sure people choose the right races. Make sure you're hungry for it, because if you aren't, in most cases you could come unstuck in that event. Let me know if you've got any advice around this sort of stuff, or if you've done this yourself. But for me, upon reflection now, is absolutely the right decision. An even better decision would have been not to have entered the race and actually focused on my quick block during the winter. And then my next big goal would have been the South Downs 50. But now I know that, I'm still obviously going to work with the same coach who's been brilliant over the last year and a half. But I'm going to make sure that when it comes to booking back end of next year or the year after, I'm a bit like, if someone advises me, I think you should do this, and I'm not feeling that, I will say, no, I don't fancy that. And that's okay, it really matters what you do in the sport, as in you do what you really want to do. That's really important. So yeah, hopefully that's helped. If anyone who's recently DNF'd or anything, send them this video, and hopefully this can give them, some of the positive outcomes that come of that, or the learning points to it, because when we fail, that they're some of our biggest lessons in life, right?